Sam.
Like I.
Dude, thank you for doing this. Thank you for being on the podcast. How are you?
I'm good. I'm a little nervous, but I'm excited.
Don't worry, I'm nervous every single time. So,
Yeah.
all right. So, real quick, where are you?
I am in Norwood, North Carolina,
Norwood.
which is the small suburb of Albemarle, North Carolina, which
Hey.
is like an hour from Charlotte.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I remember when you took me to your home in Albemarle, and I I remember I was like, "Yo, Sam's from here." I was like, "Dude, he's living it up." What's it
yeah.
like? How long have you? Because I know you were at in Wake Forest, and how long have you been back in your hometown or around it?
Um, I've been back here for going on 2 years. It'll be 2 years in May. Um, Before that, I lived in Suffolk, Virginia for 2 years. I moved there after I left Wake Forest.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Is it weird, like being around closer to family back home?
No, I actually love it. That's kind of why I moved back, was just to be closer to family. I'd been gone for so long, and I became an uncle while I was in Virginia.
Mm.
My grandparents are getting older. I miss being with family and at home. So,
Yeah.
um, I needed that to come back and, you know.
Yeah, I'm like currently because right now I'm in Georgia. I just left. I've been here for like 3 days, and I'm kind of doing the same thing. Like I'm 27. I feel like I just need to see my parents. They're getting older, so I'm in the kind of decision where I'm like, okay, do I move somewhere closer? I'm 27. I can kind of go wherever. I'm trying to decide, and also kind of like halfway trying to make my parents happy. They're like, we like to see you, so I'm trying to figure that myself. But Sam, I got you on this podcast because you are the perfect person to have on here. Uh, we came the same year, right?
Yeah.
Yep. We came 2012 to Southeastern. We both signed up to go to Bible college.
You lived across the hall from me.
Yep, because I was with Wesley,
Yep.
and I was going through my freshman adventures,
Mhm.
first year, out of state, and we decided to be roommates.
Yeah. That next summer.
And dude, so real quick, I want to know, why did you decide to go to Southeastern?
Um, it's kind of uh so I became a Christian like when I was 16.
Mm-hmm.
Which I grown up going to church, but wasn't really until I was 16 that I got serious about my faith and trying to follow Christ. Um, and then I knew kind of like senior year of high school, I was thinking I want to maybe do something in ministry, trying to figure it out. And then came across Southeastern, went on a campus visit. I really liked it. Um, and I just kind of decided, hey, I'm going to do this.
Now,
So,
did you have any plan Bs? You're like, hey, I might be a business major, I might do engineering, or any kind of plan B.
no, I had no plan B. So well, I really didn't even know what I was doing at Southeastern.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just kind of knew, well, it's Southern Baptist seminary. I'll go there. I'll figure it out,
Yeah,
but something in ministry for sure is what I was thinking.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know a big chunk of people who show up to Southeastern, it's not necessarily that they don't even know the steps to get to ministry. It's that they have like a youth pastor. As soon as you like start to take things seriously in your faith, or hey, I'm actually reading the Bible by myself, no one has to tell me. They're like, dude, I think you're called. I
Oh
think you
yeah. Oh yes, we discerned a calling to ministry when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Sure.
So then you show up and you're like, I don't even know. You don't even know what you're signing up for, or the path or paths to. And for a lot of people, what I'm trying to say is they just want to learn more about Christianity. It's like, I'm just trying to figure out my own religion and history, because all that stuff is so, either people just don't, like, not necessarily care about it, they just don't know. So you're like, let me just be educated on this thing that I want to take very seriously. So you show up to Southeastern. Um, so you sign up. Were you okay with the covenant and the rules? And were you familiar at all with Southeastern culture, that SBC culture beforehand?
So I grew up in a Southern Baptist church, but I had never heard of Southeastern, and I only grew up like 2.5 hours from Southeastern in North Carolina, but I had never heard of it. Um, and I I think at the time I was pretty much okay with everything in the covenant. I mean, I came from a church where like our pastor was very adamant that like drinking alcohol is a sin.
Mm,
Like, so I was okay with that rule because
yeah,
whatever. I was used to that in my church that I came from. Um, Everything else was kind of like, yeah, I get it. I think
yeah.
so.
Okay, so what was your first red flag? Did it show up freshman year? Did you see something and you're like, this kind of,
Yeah, I asked myself this question when I watched Lauren's episode.
yeah.
Um, and to be honest, looking back, when I was at Southeastern, I don't think I experienced a whole lot of red flags when I was there. Like for me in the moment, it felt fine. Like
Mm,
it felt right. Like this is what's supposed to happen, you know? It wasn't until like 2 years after I left the Southeastern seminary bubble that I began to like look back and be like, I don't think I agreed with that. And I mean, probably what should have been my first red flag was um, on the application. Not having got there yet, but I'm applying.
yeah.
And of course they ask you all these different morality questions, and one of them is something like, are you homosexual and have you ever had sex with a member of the same sex? And I'm like, okay. Looking back, like if I were to apply to a school now and that was on there, I'd be like, is that any of your business? You know? But so that was like, oh, okay. And little background on me. I just came out as gay like beginning of November, actually, on National Coming Out Day, November 11th. I think that was November 11th or October 11th. I think so.
Yeah, yeah.
And before that, I didn't really come out to myself as gay until like 2019, sometime in there. When I was at Southeastern, I knew that I had same-sex attractions, but I didn't label it as like me being homosexual because that was something different, you know? But basically I've known for a long time that I am gay.
Yeah.
But when I was in middle school and high school, I like experimented with a friend of mine, and that was like on my conscience when I'm applying to Southeastern. It's like, oh gosh, what does this mean about me? And I have to tell them about this experience that I had, like, and always felt a lot of shame about it anyway, just because, growing up in a very conservative church where that's wrong, and anyway, so that was like the first moment where it was like, okay,
Yeah.
I have to like tell you about this part of me that I don't even like. And,
Yeah. But real quick, I do want to say congratulations. Like, coming out, and it's such a big thing. And at this point, kind of later separating myself from Southeastern, I'm sure there's Sam, there are people who wish they had the bravery to do what you did and make it public, because it's such a shamed thing, and it's something that they don't want to admit to themselves.
Yeah.
And that's huge. But it is interesting, because I remember on the I don't remember there being like, if it wasn't necessarily gay sex, like, did you have sex before showing up to Southeastern? I'm like, was that a question? Like, it seemed to isolate, homosexuality. Like,
Right.
were you were you engaging in that kind? And I I feel like I remember, like, on mission trip organizations, you kind of had to confess, admit if you had some kind of homosexual sin before going on. So it seemed like the same thing of like, not like if you were just a straight couple and it was like, oh, like you have to like, did you have sex before marriage? It seems like no, but if you were having gay sex, like you, yeah, hey, we need to talk about this. Like, are you still like, what's that about?
Yeah. So just a note on, coming out, I will say, like, coming out to yourself is one thing. Like, that was liberating in and of itself, just being honest with myself about who I am and how God made me. And that wasn't something that happened overnight by no means. I mean, this was like years and years of me like battling with this, struggling with my sexuality, um, asking God to change me and save me and whatever. And then um, researching a lot on my own. Anyway, but I will say, coming out publicly is another form of liberation where it's just like, it feels great to just not have to hide anything anymore, and it's just out there. So I'm really happy I did it. It's probably one of the best things I've ever done for myself. Um, so yeah. And then as far as like you were saying, the distinction between not just did you have sex before marriage or before coming here, but like, was it gay sex? Yeah, that happened. That happens. And we can talk about that a little bit later too, when we start talking about
Yeah.
cross-con and
Ooh.
missions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because I have
So
more stories.
yeah. So we became roommates. We were living together, and I knew that I I feel like everybody, I kind of had my own trauma that I wouldn't have used that word. I had my own baggage and sin issues. um like before coming up to Southeastern, and I was hoping to kind of um I don't know, just get clarity about it, or best case scenario is like God would kind of heal, and it'd be like this miracle journey, kind of who I was before Southeastern and who I am after. But then we became roommates. I was like, there is so much shame with so many people who I know at Southeastern. And because I was seeing your journey of just like, hey, I have same sex attraction. Um, and it was kind of like, I remember it was like you trying to date girls. I remember it was like your place in the church. And it just seemed to be this kind of uncomfortable, just tension wherever you went. And I'm saying this because I had a different kind of tension, but just with all students, it just seemed like we were all just uncomfortable all the time. And, do you remember? Do you remember, like I remember it, like, just super uncomfortable, trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing?
Yes. Yes, definitely. I mean, for me personally, I mean, my whole childhood and middle school, well, really after middle school and high school was just me being awkward and struggling with this part of myself that, like, looking back, yes, I know I was gay through all of that. um, but like, so one thing that Lauren talked about that stuck with me was like, when you're told over and over that like you're like this part of you is bad, then you begin to feel bad about yourself, like that you're a bad person, and like even like your body is bad, and like you hate the way you look, and you feel bad all the time. And that was like, I experienced that with being told it's wrong to be gay, and that's a sin, and that's bad, and I mean, I didn't really come from a church where they were like, if you're gay, you're going to hell. But I'm sure there's a lot of people there that thought that. So yeah, then coming to Southeastern and still dealing with that tension and like trying to do my best to be the best Christian I can be. And whatever that means with, I have these attractions, but I'm not giving into them and I'm not following through with them, but like they're there. And what do you do with those? And that was just really confusing. And, that was a struggle and a battle in and of itself for me personally.
Yeah. So this is kind of a personal question, but I was, did you ever ask yourself, am I bi? Like, was there ever a time where you were like, yo, this girl's super hot. Like, I'm trying to, maybe I think I figured this out. So when did you was there ever a time, did you consider like, maybe I'm just bi and I like, boys and girls?
So I never really played around with that thought.
Really?
I did try to date girls
Mm-hmm.
when I was at Southeastern. I can think of like 2 or 3 specific, but probably 4 specific.
Yeah.
One that I got really close with was like trying to pursue. And when Lauren used that word, I was like, oh my God, I forgot about that language. But God, anyway. So I was pursuing her. But it was like, it was me trying to fit in, trying to do what was right. And like, I do think I really cared about her. But I wasn't necessarily physically attracted to her. I mean, I think there's a scale, when I was at Southeastern, I would say I was like 80, like on a scale of 9 to 10, like 9 out of 10 attracted to men, and probably like 3 or 4 out of 10 attracted to women. And it was like, I didn't want to be alone. So I'm trying to date girls because I don't want to be alone forever. I want to have a partner. But it just never seemed to work out. And I was friends with these girls, they're nice, and we're still, we were friends, but it was just like there was something missing there. And I don't know. I never thought of myself as bisexual though.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I was at Southeastern, I didn't call myself gay. That was like
Yeah,
a big no-no.
You can't
But,
do that.
Yeah, I'm not gay, but I have same-sex attraction, which I want to make clear. Like, I don't agree with that distinction now. Like, I have same-sex attraction because I'm gay. Like there's not a distinction to me now, but in that part of my life, like psychologically, I needed that distinction because I wasn't ready to say I'm gay. I wasn't ready to come out of that conservative upbringing and go straight into that. This was like a middle ground of me being like honest with myself to some degree about my attractions, but also not fully embracing that and not knowing what to do with it.
Yeah, and did this because what I remember, Sam, I was like, yo, Sam is trying to figure himself out. I do remember like it was more of like a social acceptance things. Like Sam's just trying to figure out his place and this thing. I'm like we all are. But I do remember you being like a very anxious person. Do you think that most of this tension and complication like kind of came out as anxiety? Like you think that was the main driver during that time?
Yes. I mean, yes, definitely. Like I said, feeling this shame that's been built up really since I was a child. But then especially after I had these sexual experiences in middle school and high school, like feeling really super shitty about myself and trying so hard to make up for that. That was just miserable. And I experienced so much anxiety over that. Literally just walking down the street and or going to the grocery store and seeing an attractive man and then feeling instant shame, instant like, oh my God, I'm a bad person, feeling bad about myself, instant anxiety about like, did someone see me look at this person? Is someone gonna like call me out and make fun of me or, call me names? And, that was a real reality that I dealt with like on a day to day basis of just like, I mean, think about how many times you see an attractive person in a day, just random people. And, you know, for every single one of those people to like trigger shame,
Yeah.
that was my life, for a long time.
Yeah. Well, because I remember when you went to get tested for the first time, and that was like huge. I was like, yo, Sam's like going through it to figure this out.
Yeah, I forgot about that. But yeah, I was at Southeastern. I had I had not really come out, but I had confessed. I'll use that word because that's more like realistic of what actually happened. I confessed my same-sex attraction to my small group at church, to a couple of people at Southeastern, you included. And then, I experienced a lot of acceptance, but it was like, oh, Sam is trying to overcome this, And so that's what the acceptance was like, oh yeah, we accept Sam because he's trying to overcome this part of himself, basically. Not like, not really, not really ex-gay therapy where it's like we're trying to like make you straight. Like that wasn't really what was happening. It wasn't that bad, but it was still not fully accepting this part of myself and embracing being gay as someone who is made in God's image and like God made him gay. Like that was no.
Yeah.
But yeah, through that, shortly after talking with people, I was like, I should probably get tested for STDs because I did have these experiences. And really what it was, I don't know who put this thought in my mind, but it was, oh, if you're going to try to date women, then you need to get tested so that you can prove yourself pure to another woman. Like, because they're going to be, they're going to wonder if you have something because you were with another man. So this is a way for you to like be pure for your wife or something. And so that's even messed up. But
Yeah.
It was also like let me just do this and get it over with. That way, like I don't have to worry about it, and I can know for sure that I'm like I don't have anything.
Yeah.
I don't have
Man, I remember like days before, I was like, bro, Sam thinks he has AIDS, or like he think he might, and I just was just stressed. But I want people listening to this to hear the sincerity of your situation. And meanwhile, we're like in bunk beds together, and and I know he's going through, and I'm like, bro, I gotta squeeze one out. And I'll just like go jerk off on this bunk bed, and and Sam caught me, or he asked me about it. He's like, yo, were you touching yourself? Like, what are you doing? And I was like, yo, this is what it's like being in Southeastern. You're jammed up, you're on these twin beds like we're 10-year-olds. And I'm like, look, I gotta do what I gotta do. I'm stressed. So
yeah, I was on the top bunk and I heard some rustling down there. I was like, I think I asked you like the next day. I was like, what was going on down there?
And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. I don't even know what I said. I was like, nah, dude, what are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So uh you test negative, and
Yeah.
yeah. And what kept you at Southeastern? Because when we were roommates, I went to administration and I was like, "Hey, I'm breaking covenant. I need to leave." And they were like, "Hey, we think you'd be a good fit for here. Let's work with you to stay." So in a way, I was going through my own version of shame and trying to convince myself to leave or get out of the situation. I'm too uncomfortable being here. And they try to work with me. But for you, why did you stay? And because I didn't know you to, he's like, people, they're just finding an escape. They're just like, I gotta find a way. I'm doing all this self, um, uh, like jeopardizing themselves. And I was like, Sam didn't really, I didn't see you doing that, but what made you stay up until graduation? Because I didn't even do that. I was like, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah. Well, and I was kind of listening to Lauren's story, and I, like I said earlier, when I was at Southeastern, I didn't experience a whole lot of, like, I didn't think of what I was experiencing as trauma when I was there. Looking back, I think I went through some traumatic experiences. But I do definitely think that, like, the experience, like the Southeastern experience was a lot different for women than it was for men. Even for me, a gay man, I'm still a man, I'm still a white male at Southeastern. And listening to Lauren's story, I was just like, oh my gosh, like, I didn't experience that. And I completely think it's real. Like, I mean, I'm not saying it's not real. I'm just saying, like, I didn't experience it like she did. Um, you know, so I don't know. When I was there, I thought I was trying to do the right thing. I was, going to church, going to small group, trying to work through my same-sex attraction and keep it under control. And, looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Like, that was not freedom at all. But when I was there, I didn't feel like I don't know. I didn't feel bad about it necessarily. I mean, I had anxiety and shame, and obviously that was perpetuated in part by, like, the culture at Southeastern and at my church, but I didn't realize it at the time. So I thought I was doing what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Basically.
Now, Sam, you mentioned that, because when I was hanging out with you, Sam, I was like, I didn't really judge you. I was like, Sam's cool. I was like, run. Sam got me a job. I was like, y'all can say what you want about Sam.
That's right. I did get you a job.
Yeah.
Yes. That is so funny. I forgot about that too.
Yeah. You were like, you're like, how much are you making waiting tables? I was like, nothing. He was like, we need more people to coach gymnastics. And I was like, Sam, I don't know anything about gymnastics. And you were like, you don't need to know anything about gymnastics. They'll teach you. And I was like, all right. So I went to the owner's house. We had some meatballs over Christmas, and I got the job. And it was one of the best jobs I've had. I love that job. I love the kids there. I still have all the notes and all the cards from all the kids. I was reading them to my mom like 2 days ago. She's getting teary eyed. So yeah. So thank you, guys. It would have, I don't know, it just would have sucked like not having that experience, because I was there for like 5 years. So it was a great job, great gig. Especially all the turmoil I was going through at school. But I want to say that, you believed that people were only hanging out with you because they see that you were overcoming your homosexuality. Did you think that, you know, if I was just me, they would still like me? Did you think that, like, hey, if I just was myself? Or was it like, no, like Sam's this warrior going through sanctification? Uh, that's why we accept him. Do you think that was the
Right.
case?
No, I definitely do not think that, like, if at Southeastern, I would have said, you know what, I'm actually gay. Like, I think God is cool with it. I want to have a boyfriend. I want to be in a relationship. I want to be in a same-sex relationship. Like, I think this is okay. Like, absolutely not. I would not have been accepted at Southeastern, at my church. And that wasn't ever something that crossed my mind. Like, that wasn't even a possibility. It's when I was at Southeastern. It was like, I never thought that I would come out. It was never an option. That was wrong. That's just, not that like I couldn't come out and also be a Christian. I never thought that. Like, it would just be like, this is something so bad that like I couldn't live with myself if I did that. And like, I wouldn't be able to be a part of a church if I did that. I would be ostracized. It was never an option for me. And like, so I'll backtrack a little bit. When I did apply to Southeastern, I was reading the application. I had that question. I wrote the admissions board like a whole letter explaining like what happened with this guy specifically, like in middle school, in high school, is the same guy, and talking about, how long it's been since then. And, I became a Christian. I'm trying to do right. And, I hadn't watched pornography since I was 16. And this is, I'm 18 going into Southeastern. And so I sent that letter in. I was so worried. I thought that like I wasn't going to get in.
God.
And they never said anything about it. Nobody ever said anything about it. I was accepted and I was like, all right, cool. Went to Southeastern. Nobody said anything about it, which I don't know, it was kind of funny. But then, I'm there. I tell people that I'm attracted to men and we're working through it. There was a point when I did start to kind of struggle again with pornography and had to go to Southeastern and confess that, and started going to counseling at Southeastern. And
now, did they put you in counseling or did you volunteer for it?
They put me in counseling.
Ah!
Yeah. Well, this is all related to CrossCon. We gotta
okay.
go. We got
okay. Yeah. Let's talk about it.
All right. So I'll start the story off and then you can jump in. So me and Lakai are roommates. I guess we've been roommates like that whole summer and like into the semester. It's the fall semester. It's like October or something. And Lakai's like, hey, they're doing this new missions conference called CrossCon. It's gonna be in Louisville. And I really want to go because I think I want to do missions. And I was like, okay, cool. And he's like, you want to go with me? And I was like, sure, I guess so. I don't really think I want to do missions at all, but like, I'll go with you. I hooked us up because I had a friend whose parents used to live in Louisville and had friends there. So I got us that nice ass house to stay in. You remember that?
It was so nice.
And they were really nice people. Got to stay there for free. So I flew up, I think. No, I drove, you flew.
I think you flew. Wait.
No, I drove, you flew, and then I was driving us around everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
We rode back together.
So we drove back around the mountains and I almost crashed the car. That's what I remember.
Yeah. So anyway, we're there, and then in the middle of this conference, things start to shift, and Lakai is like, I don't really think missions is for me. And I was like, you know what? I think I could do this. I think I might want to be an international missionary, but like, I'm not exactly sure, but like, I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to go back to Southeastern. I'm going to like talk to my pastors and like, I'm going to discern a call to missions. And sure enough, came back. I talked to one of my pastors. He was like, hey, I'm gonna hook you up with this guy. He's doing some work with internationals here in Raleigh, serving them and whatever, you can work with him and kind of get some experience working with international people. And, a couple months later, my small group at church, they were like, hey, we're going to go on this mission trip to Nepal. Because I forgot. Because this couple in my group, like they had been there like 5 times. They wanted to go be missionaries there. We were all going to go as a growth group. And I was like, yeah, this is great. I get to, go overseas for the first time, do international missions, see what it's all about, and like figure out if this is really what I want to do. So I'm doing that. And all along, I'm like, yes, this is like, I think this is what I want to do. I go to Nepal for a month. This was pre-earthquake Nepal, like the big earthquake in like whatever year it was, 2014 or whatever. This was 2013, I think. I don't know. Anyway, so loved it. Had a great time. We went hiking in the Himalayas, sharing the gospel to all these villages. And I was like, this is awesome. I love this. I want to do this. I got back and I was like, yep, this is what God wants me to do. I'm doing it. And so as soon as I got back, I started applying for this 2-year internship type thing called Journeyman with the SBC. Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of friends at Southeastern that had been journeymen. And I'd heard their experiences. They loved it. I was like, man, this is what I want to do. And so I was applying, sent in the initial like basic application, and then I started like the really in-depth application. And I met with my one of the advisors or something with the International Mission Board, and his son was at Southeastern. So he had come down to like visit, and we met up at Chick-fil-A. Of course, like you're taught to learn about, just, met up at Chick-fil-A, like, these Christian guys do, and talking, explaining to him, like, I think I'm called to missions. I did all these things and went to Nepal and I loved it. And, I'm going for it. And, shared my past history with him about, I had these sexual experiences, I have same-sex attraction, but like I'm overcoming that. And, I haven't watched porn in, 4 years, whatever. And at the end of that conversation, he was like, wow, man, that's great. It's awesome. I'm really proud of you. It looks like God's doing great things in your life, but unfortunately, you're not a good candidate for the Journeyman program. And I was like, why is that? And he said, well, there's a rule that if you've had sex with a man or with a member of the same sex, there has to be at least a 7-year period of abstinence from gay sex before you're allowed to go into the mission field. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, I have not read this rule anywhere. 7 years? Where did that number come from, for one? And, it had been 4 years for me at this point. So I was like, I have to wait 3 effing years before I can go to the mission field. Like, what is happening, God? Like, I just went through this whole 6 months of like, I am called to missions. I went to Nepal. He was like, yes, you're called to missions. And then this happened 2 months later. I was like, what the hell? And that really sent me in a downward spiral of like, here I am trying to do my best to overcome this thing that I hate about myself because I've been told that it's bad. And now here it is again, popping up and preventing me from doing what I think God wants me to do. Like, what is that about? And that really just tore me up, messed me up. I didn't know what I was supposed to do after that. I was about to graduate in December from Southeastern because I came in to college with credits from high school. So like I was able to graduate early. And so 6 months later, I had started going through these thoughts of shame again and started watching porn for the first time in 4 years and went through all of that. So like, 6 months ago, I wanted to be an international missionary and, couldn't. And then now 6 months later, here I am like lost again and not knowing what to do with myself and, feel this shame watching porn over Christmas break. And like, so I came back from that Christmas break and confessed to Southeastern. And it was like, first I had confessed to members of my small group. And after talking with them, somebody suggested, hey, have you thought about like going to Southeastern? Like, that's probably the right thing to do. And I was like,
that's always the right thing.
Yeah. and I think this was the same year that I graduated. I might have my timeline mixed up, but I was still living on campus though.
Yeah.
So like I felt like I needed to tell them because I was still on campus, even though I wasn't a student, like I wasn't taking any classes. So I did. And it's funny. It's funny how, you know, that happened with you, and like you had meetings one-on-one with whatever his name was, that like, you know, he was the guy that you went to, the student ambassador or whatever. Well, he didn't have meetings with me. He sent me off to somebody else, you know, because I'm, you know, the gay kid, I guess. So I had to have biblical counseling with one of the biblical counseling professors that like specialized in this thing, you know, this same-sex attraction thing. And I went to like one session a month for like the next 6 months. And I don't know, that was weird.
Was it ever helpful?
I don't know. In the moment, it was, I guess it was kind of helpful. I thought I was getting what I needed, but it was still like, I was going through a lot of like emotions of like being really angry. Like, can you believe this happened? Like, what is happening? Like, I'm just trying to do the right thing. I want to be a freaking missionary. I'm trying to go across the globe and like do good work for God. And like, y'all are telling me I can't go because I had sex with a man. You know, I was really angry and upset. And so it did kind of help me work through that a little bit, but not like it's okay to be gay.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
like you're angry at God and you got to figure that out. And so that's kind of what it was. And then I don't know, that was it. That was all they did for me. You know,
So,
I guess I don't know if I was technically on probation because I did watch pornography. I guess I was, but I don't remember them calling it that necessarily. Of course, I
so
wasn't. I already graduated.
yeah.
So
So this is right before you're about to graduate, and at the end of his sessions, did it like conclude to anything? Like, hey, you worked this out, or this is what we hope? Did it just like, hey, you did your couple months? All right, that's it.
um, I think I was only supposed to do it for like a semester or something. And then I moved. I think I moved like shortly after that, maybe. I don't even remember. It's so funny looking back because it's like I have purposely tried to forget about this part of my life. And so when I was listening, when I talked to you the other day, and then when I was listening to Lauren, I was thinking, I don't even remember any of this. Like, I remember a few things here and there, but there's a lot that like I don't even remember about Southeastern because I think I've purposefully like tried to block it out and like just move on with my life. So
Yeah.
funny.
Well, it's that's why I had the idea of this kind of show, this kind of platform, because people that I would talk to, it was the same thing of like, dude, I'm just trying to move on. I was like, I don't even know, like as an 18-year-old, why I even signed up for this. And at the time I was asking myself, like, I had good times. Like I feel like I had a true education, but I'm like, what do I need to keep and what do I need? Like what's serving me and what's not? Like what do I need to unlearn? But people I talk to, it's like they have stories just like yours or just like mine. And we just kind of walk around and we work at Geico and we just move on. And it's like, dude, like you you have such a unique experience and true story that people want to hear. They may not know they need to hear it or want to, but it's definitely, I'm like, we all have something so valuable and we just kind of like, I guess I'll just apply at the marketing job. Like, yeah, I guess I got to make some money. So I
Yeah.
was like, dude, like we need to do something about this.
Yeah. Um, I think looking back, like, you know, it was trauma looking back. Um, like I said, in the moment, I felt like it was what I needed. in hindsight, it definitely wasn't what I needed, and it definitely wasn't helpful, like for where I want to be, and where I am now. Like, but like you said, I do feel like I got an education, and I don't necessarily regret going to Southeastern because honestly, I would not be where I'm at today had I not been there. I did have to go through that sort of trauma, but I am happy with where I'm at now. And I wouldn't be the person I am today had I not gone through that. So at the same time, I'm like, I don't regret going. I was able to meet the people at gymnastics, which I love them. And I have more connections through my job than I do, like lasting connections through my job than I do at Southeastern or at my church. So like, I don't know. And that took me places, gymnastics. I'm a gymnastics coach still today. So, and I started that when I was at Southeastern. So, there's a lot about my time there that like I still am thankful for. But like, I don't know, it's such a weird thing to navigate because even dealing with like my church, looking back, I loved a lot of those people. I cared for a lot of the people that I went to church with, and I really think they cared about me, and they were doing the best that they could with what they, with what they knew and the knowledge that they had. And, so it's a weird thing to be like, I experienced trauma at your hand, but at the same time, like you were doing what you thought was right,
Yeah.
which doesn't make what they did or said or whatever, like, doesn't make that right. But
No,
I don't
it's
know.
it's
It's just a
definitely,
weird balance.
yeah, it's super complicated. And that's why people that I talk to or alumni or people that I knew, it's just like we all kind of conclude like, dude, it was just so layered and so many narratives going on and the 8 different angles that I was going through at the same time. And I'm trying to the same time, you're 21. It's like I'm trying to pass. My parents kind of have their own thing. I had baggage before I showed up. I'm trying to, volunteer with my small group. They're getting mad at me for not showing up to church. And it's like, hey, I still got a midterm. It's like, golly, like we still, you're up at 4, and, because you're still 20. And at the same time, we go through this existential and spiritual plane at the same time. And I think that's the unique experience. But Sam, I want you to talk about Virginia and how you got there.
Yeah. Um, so after all that went down with the International Mission Board and being, denied this internship that I was really wanting to do, and it was like a year later, this couple that I was in small group with, they wanted to go back to Virginia, Suffolk in particular, where they're from. They're both from that area, to start a church. And they had asked me when they first left if I would go with them. I had known them at this point for like 4 years. Really close friends with them. I'd go over to their house like after work during the week, just eat leftovers and hang out with them and their kids. I think they had 5 kids at that point. I think they had 5 at that point. And at first I was like, I don't know. Let me think about it. And I thought about it for like 8 months. And then I was finally like, okay, yeah, I'll go. I'll do it. But it was in the middle of the year. I was working at this job with a competitive cheerleading team. So I was like, I've got to finish out this season with them before I can go. And so I did that. I left, went to Virginia because I was like, I got nothing to lose. I don't know what I'm doing in my life now. So I might as well go up here, do this thing. I guess it's a good thing because, they're trying to plant a church. So I
Yeah.
can't do any wrong.
How many people go with you?
Me. That was it.
But, what?
It was the family.
Yeah.
They were there and their kids. And I left. I was the only one from Southeastern or from our church to go with them. And then we had like 3 or 4 local people, like friends that they had up there that were a part of our group, our core group. But I was like the only one that came in from out of town to be a part of this thing.
Now,
And at this,
did they do a like call like a kind of call like, hey church, if you this is a family, they're blessed, they're gonna try to do good work in this different state. Do any of you guys feel called? Like, was it ever like they're hyping this up to hope that they're gonna get a true team together? Or are you saying like you're the only one who was like, yeah, I'll go? Did they do that?
um, so it was kind of it was not really last minute, but it wasn't really like their plan to plant a church originally.
Okay.
Like he just wanted to pastor a church. And then they started thinking about maybe we can plant a church and start a church of our own. And then they went through like an apprenticeship thing at our church that we were at in Raleigh. And they decided to go through with it. And it wasn't like, I don't think originally it was something that was like endorsed by the church. Like it wasn't put together by the church. It was kind of put together by,
Okay.
and then once it had life, the church was like, hey, we'll jump on that and like, we'll support you. So, but it wasn't like a big thing. Like our church had a couple other church plants that were like started within the church and like had a bunch of people, like whole small groups that like up and left to like Atlanta or Denver or DC, like, and they were really big things. And this wasn't that. I don't know why. It wasn't. I was the only one that left and went with them. I mean, but I was sent out from the church. Like they had a ceremony. They were like, we're sending Sam out to go to part of this church plant, whatever. So I don't know.
Okay. So what was it?
Yeah.
So you show up, you and the fam. What happened?
Yeah. I was up there. The first year I was there, I had a lot of anxiety. I was homesick. I felt claustrophobic, like in this place that I don't know. I was 5 hours from home, which when I was in Wake Forest, I never felt homesick at all. I was like, I'm glad to be out of my hometown. But up there, like, I just felt homesick. I didn't know anybody. It was like a really tough time. I cried myself to sleep like every night for like a year. It felt like I would get like panic attacks and like have to go driving just to like get my mind off of it and like drive around for like an hour. It was really bad. Things got better. I was working at a gymnastics place up there. I really liked it. I was learning a lot being a part of this community, this gymnastics community there. Our church started to kind of take off slowly. It was not what I expected. It didn't really take off very quickly, but it did get going. Throughout the process, like our church in Raleigh stopped supporting us over, I think, some theological differences. So after that, basically, we never heard from anybody from our home church in Raleigh. That was interesting. So then we were kind of on our own up there, and we were just trying to make it work, trying to do our thing, trying to be faithful, trying to start something.
Yeah, did that, because I've never heard of that in my time at the churches that I was a part of at school. What did that make you view church differently, that they would do something like that?
Yes. And I don't know, it was like a process of like me and this pastor friend of mine who is planting the church, and I'm there with him, and like I don't know, some of our theological views are differing and changing from Southeastern and from our church. And, we're kind of growing apart. And so I think it did need to happen. Because at that point we weren't on the same page theologically. And I'd begun to you know, that's kind of when I started to think and realize that oh, maybe I don't believe all this stuff that I learned at Southeastern. Maybe everything's not as black and white as they made it seem. And, maybe there are different ways to interpret the Bible. And, maybe people who baptize babies are still Christians. And, just other little things like that. And, because that was a thing. It was yes, there are Christians out there who they have women pastors, but they're bad Christians. But then I was no, they can still be good Christians. And I don't know, just little things started to kind of part ways with that camp. And so it did need to happen. I didn't know what to think about it at the time, but.
And what were your main worries up there? Because it sounds like, was this as bad as being in Southeastern, or the day that they said you couldn't go overseas through the apprenticeship, the journeyman? Was it worse then emotionally while you were in Virginia?
Honestly, no. It was really great to be outside of the seminary bubble, to be interacting with real people, and to get a taste of the real world. And, not the real SBC world, but the real world, and I mean, I was still having anxiety about my sexuality and experiencing shame and all that kind of stuff. And still trying to figure out what do I do with this part of me? So that didn't change necessarily, but just in general, being outside of SBC for a little bit, really was nice. And I had grown up in Southern Baptist, life. So it was the first time that I'd really gotten out of it.
And did the church make it? When did why did you decide to leave?
So there was there was a situation with some of the members of our community. There was some adulterous activity going on between two different married couple, two married people were having an affair with each other, and that was a big scandal. It kind of threw our whole group out of whack, and really derailed everything that we were doing. And I was kind of caught up in that, as far as I was living in the home of one of those couples, and there was a lot of lies, there was a lot of deception, manipulation, and I was kicked out of the house for no reason. I had to move in with one of the guy's moms for 2 months. It was just really bad, and that was traumatic, and it was a really toxic environment. And at that point, the church was pretty much obliterated because of what had happened. And I was just I need to go home. I need to heal from this. I need to be with family. I don't want to be here anymore. And that was it. And when I came home, it was I don't want to be a part of a church. I'm done with church for a while. That's what happened. So.
Well, it's so funny because when I talked to you a couple days ago, I had no idea. And it's so funny how we leave school and we try to, take our baby steps out. And sometimes it's such a huge disaster. Or it's because I'm sure you were just yo, what is going on? I'm here. I said, you said no over here. God, I say yes to this. And now it's this clusterfuck. And And now it's just like, I guess I'll go home. And and because I'm sure it's like living with someone's like mom's couch, you're like, this isn't what I had in mind when when I decided to leave my family and leave my state to come up here. Uh, did you? Because I'm more emotional. I think I'm more fatal, where I'm just like, I guess this is it. Like, did you ever when this was going on, like the peak of it, where you're just like, I'll just go home. Like, this is my escape. Like I can, because some people they'll just stay, and I'd be like, I guess I'll just live and die here. Did you always see it like as a escape route of like, all right, guys, about time I leave?
Yeah. So there was one point. So there was one point in the middle of it where I was just like, I really want to go home. I just want to leave. And my family was telling me to come home. They were
Mm.
like, you don't have to stay there. You can leave. Like, come home. We'll take care of you, whatever. I chose to stay. I chose to stay for like 4 months after like it all came out about the affair, and I was kicked out of my house. I chose to stay up there partly because of my job, because again, I was coaching competitively. We were in the middle of a gymnastics season. I did it for my kids that I work with.
Mm.
Also, though, I did it for the husband of the wife that had the affair, because he was my friend. Um, he was he was going through a tough time. He needed me to be there to support him, um, to help him figure out what the hell was going on, what he needed to do. He had nobody else really. I mean, he had some other people, but I was his big support system. So that's another reason why I stayed. Um, yeah.
Man, oh Lord.
So
So, so you go home, and does your family look at you weird? Were they as supportive as they said, or was it just like, oh, Sam's been around the world and he's decided to come back? Was it? And did you, when you moved back home, were you actually with your family, like you're in the house?
so my family was so happy to have me home. It was like a celebration. Like
Okay.
I got well, so part of the reason why I came home also was like my grandmother had this house that she'd been renting out. The renters moved out and she was like, "Do you want to live there?" I was like, "Yes, I'll do it. I need to come home." So I had a house automatically coming into it. When I pulled up that night, everybody was here to surprise me. They had a big old party.
Oh my God.
They had a bonfire. It was fun. Um, so they were really excited to see me, and that excitement lasted for a long time, like a year. um, and so I have my own place, but I'm still really close to family. It was what I needed at the time, was to like be close to family, heal from these experiences that I had, figure out who I am, what I'm doing with my life. um, and I got a job too before I even moved. I had gotten a job here working at a gymnastics place that I actually did gymnastics at as a kid. Um, so I was able to get that job before I even moved back. So I came into everything with a house, with a job, everything kind of already set up for me.
I feel like that's such a transition from where you were coming from. I think you're like, oh my
Yeah.
God, like, because Sam, I know you were just like, look, we have to have things together, and the fact that all of it kind of came together, and they're happy to have you home, and they love you, and I'm like, that's so huge.
Yeah. I mean, it was crazy to like finally be like settled down, so to speak, in a spot and like feel good about it. And um, yeah, and I'll kind of backtrack too, because I never really touched on this. Like, when I was at Southeastern, I thought I wanted to be go into ministry. Then for a while, I thought it was international missions, and then that was shut down, and I was like, what the hell? And then, before I actually moved to Virginia, I realized, hey, I'm really good at coaching gymnastics and I really like coaching. I like working with kids. I like cheerleading. I like like these are things that I'm good at. You know, I have experience doing this. I love it. Why can't I do this as my career? Like, and up until that point, I'd always thought, you know, I have to have some type of career in ministry to like be acceptable to God, to, you know, prove that like I'm this good Christian. And that was what I was trying to do by going to Southeastern and going on these mission trips. And like that
Mm,
was the mindset that I was in. And finally it clicked with like, you know, maybe this is what God wants me to do. Like he set me up to do this. I have this passion for it. I'm good at it. Why not? I can do this and still be pleasing to God. Like this is a good job that like is needed. Um, you know, this is my calling, not missions, but like this is what I'm called to do. And so I kind of went to Virginia with that in mind of like, this is what I want to do now. I want to coach gymnastics. And so, you know, I got that job up there in Virginia. I learned a lot there. Yes, I was kind of at this church plant, but it was that the church plant honestly was kind of on the side. Like it was my reason to go to Virginia, but the reason why I really stayed, I guess, as long as I did was, you know, this experience that I was getting at the gymnastics place, and um, that kind of helped to develop, you know, my career path even more. And then, you know, when I was getting ready to move back home, it just worked out perfectly with this job here. And, you know, honestly, it's my dream job. I love it. Um, I wouldn't really change it. This, you know, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. It did take me a little while to kind of figure that out, but I I love where I'm at right now. So that's kind of how I got here as far as like my career path and all that.
well, Sam, it is amazing because I wish we could go back and show this video to us, you know, when we were roommates of just like, you know, it works out, you know, we can stop crying. Um, and and it's so amazing just because I know that was such a huge worry of just like, what am I supposed to do? What am I called to do? Uh, give me your books. What's to say? Work, calling? Like, give me those. And it's like, and it's just amazing, Sam, that you're able to say that and you're able to
Yeah.
feel that.
Yeah. And I will say for anyone listening who is also trying to figure out, like, what am I going to do with my life? I don't know whether you're 18, whether you're 26, you know, I got to a point where I was just kind of like, what the hell? Like, you know, for a long time, it was just like, am I going to be outside of God's will? You know, am I making the wrong decision by choosing to go work at this job? Or am I making the wrong decision to go to this career path? And I think I realized at some point that like, God knows our hearts. And like, if we are trying, you know, and we're just, you know, I don't think there are many wrong decisions you can make as far as like if you are being smart and you're trying to do the best thing you can do, like don't stress that much about it. Like make a decision. That's what God wants you to do. He wants you to make a decision and like pick something, do something, be passionate about it. And you know, if you change your mind later on, then change your mind. You know, do something else. You know, I just don't think it has to be so cut and dry as far as like the calling part of it. You know, what am I
Yeah.
called to do? I think God calls us to like be Christians, be happy, like do what's right, you know, be good people. Just do that wherever you're at and it'll work out, you know? I don't know.
Yeah. It seems like I just remember how frozen me, my other friends, like how we were about this because it seemed to be, like you said, like really black and white. And it just seems like such a detrimental I don't know, maybe doctrine or just maybe the way it was talked about. Like it had to be with such clarity that I know at 22 what I'm going to be doing for the next 40 years. And and again, it's just like, man, I feel like we just had to try and grow up so fast back then. And I think it was like an Instagram post or like a meme or something, but I think it was that it's a strength to change your mind, because I think in the environment that we were in, it's a weakness. That once you say you're going to do something, you stick with it and you see it to the end in whatever capacity. And I saw that in faculty, staff at Southeastern, in my small group. It was like some decision they made way back and they have to see it through because they can't quit. And it's like, if you're able to see that this is a dead end, you can just flip it and change your mind. But I think even in the community that we were in, there was so much shame about I could be wrong, or worse, I made God look bad because I went in front of my church and declared such and such about my life for the next 5 years. And then a year in, it's just like, oh, this isn't for me.
Mm.
And I think because I had that moment with you at CrossCon, I was like, look, I don't think this is for me. And I think I saved myself so much turmoil doing that. It just really resonates with me when people are smart enough to pivot and they're like, look, I thought this could work. Here's the reasons why I can't. And I think if that idea was popular and noted, especially in the circles that we were in, it would just save so many tears with indecision and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Pivot is a good word. I've done that a couple different times. Yeah. And I've pivoted denominations too. So I did want to touch on that
Yeah.
because, like, you know, I've talked with some people that, you know, I'm trying to do the gay Christian thing, I guess. I mean, I don't want to say I'm trying to do the gay Christian thing. What I want to say is I'm gay. Also, my faith is really important to me still as a gay man. And I think that God validates me in my gayness, and that, you know, it's a good thing that I'm gay because this is the way God made me to be. And I'm trying to live into that. And I am not a good Christian. Right now, I'm not really going to church, partly because of the coronavirus pandemic, because we haven't had church since March, my church. But also, like, I don't know, I'm just trying to figure it out. You know, I'm going day to day. I don't, like, you know, Lauren was talking about how, you know, when she came into Southeastern, she felt like she had a really vibrant relationship with God. And now she doesn't feel like that. And I am kind of like, I feel the same way, as far as, like, I really thought that I had a great relationship with God before, you know, as
Mm-hmm.
hard as my life was with, like, shame and struggling, like, I was really trying to seek God and, you know, do right by him. And I feel like now I don't really have a day-to-day personal relationship with God necessarily. But I'm okay with that. And I feel like God, you know, God is still there, and God is still present with me. You know, he's being patient, and it's okay for me to take a little time to figure out who I am, to figure my shit out. And, you know, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm trying to figure it out. I am a part of a PCUSA church now. You know, my church itself isn't, I don't think they have a stance on same-sex relationships or LGBT issues, but the pastors as individuals are both affirming of same-sex relationships. And so, and I've talked to them, and, you know, obviously everyone knows I'm gay now because it's on social media, but they knew that I was gay before that. And they accept me and love me. And so that's kind of how I want to live my life. And I'm trying to figure out how to do that. So yeah, that's just a little note on that
Yeah.
about I'm out of the SBC world now, and I am really grateful for it. So,
Wow. Now, when you came out and made your post about it, were there people from school that hit you up about it? Were they affirming? Did they tell you were going to hell?
funny. So it is funny because about a year ago, right after I like was honest with myself and I just accepted like I'm gay and I'm gonna live this way. Um, and I realized like, no, it's okay to be gay. um, I went through my social media and I detoxed everyone from my home church here, everyone from Southeastern, everyone from my church in Raleigh, pretty much aside from like less than 10 people, you included, that I was just like, I just, I was tired of seeing everyone's political posts and everyone's posts about everything, and I was just tired of seeing it all. So I was just like, I don't want to see this. And you know, if I ever come out in the future, they are probably not going to be accepting. So I just went ahead and deleted everybody. And I kind of regret now that I did, because there's a part of me that like, I want those people to see that like, this is how I'm living my life now. Like, I don't want to have a conversation with them, but I just want them to see and know, so I'm still trying to figure that out. Like, do I want to like write them a letter or contact them and just say, hey, this is who I am now, or do I just want to leave it? But
Mm,
I did have a couple people um, that messaged me and said, well, I had one person in particular from Southeastern say, hey, like I was really encouraged by your story, and like I'm also gay and like trying to figure out how to come out. And I was like, oh, well, that's cool. Another girl, one of our mutual friends, she posted on National Coming Out Day also, and she's bisexual. And she posted before I did, and she was kind of inspiration to me of like, oh, let me message her, connect with her. Hey, I'm gay too, or I'm gay, and you're bi, and yay, this is fun. Um, and she was like inspiration to me to like just go ahead and do it. I mean, I wasn't planning on posting anything that day, but I saw a couple of my friends post some things, and I was just like, you know what, better now than like to wait, just get it over with. And I'm glad I did. So, but yeah, I didn't really have anybody reach out and be negative. But I think that's because like I said, I deleted everybody. So, but,
yeah.
and I mean, another reason why, like you asked me earlier, do you think if you had come out while you were at Southeastern, do you think people would have accepted you, or was it just because you were, trying to be a warrior and trying to fight the sin and whatever? I knew that they wouldn't accept me because I had a friend of mine at my church. He was not a member of Southeastern. He was not a student at Southeastern, but he was a member of my church. He was a little bit older than me. He was in my small group for a while. He also had same-sex attractions and had some sexual experiences in the past with men, and was like trying to do the same thing I was, work through it, figure out how to be a good Christian and live your life, and also be honest with yourself about this part of you and what do you do with it. Anyway, we actually had biblical counseling together with one of our pastors and another guy um, at our church, which is really weird. But basically, shortly after that, he came out as gay and was like, no, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm not trying to fight this. Like, this is a good part of who I am. And anyway, he did that, and he was ostracized from the community. Everyone stopped talking to him. He was not allowed to come to church. He was pretty much excommunicated. And all of a sudden it was like one day he's here and the next day he's gone. And in the moment, that should have been a big red flag.
Mm,
But it's so weird to look back and think like that was normal. Like we were like, why didn't that like shake me in the moment, But I just went on my life like it was normal. And then, you know, I don't know. It's just really sad that like the community did that to him. And I've reconnected with him since then. He doesn't really have anything to do with church or with the Christian community or with God at all because of, I think, because of his experience. Like, and I mean, I think it's completely valid. Like, I understand why he is that way, but like, it just saddens me that like that could have been a moment for, the church to really love him. And, even if they didn't agree with him, you know, is that the right thing to do, to shun someone from your community? It's literally almost like Lauren's situation with what she went through at Southeastern. It's like, if that's really what you believe, is it right for you to, you know, suspend me so I can't go to school and I can't talk with any of these people that like are supposed to be my support system, you know? And so that was something that like I knew, like, okay, if I ever come out, like these people are not going to be on board, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think it is a talking point because all of us left home, we left our families, all of us left states. Like, our mutual friends from Texas, I was from Georgia, we're moving from North Carolina, we're moving from all over the US to be here. And then it's like, hey, guess what? I'm 19, I'm 23, I'm confiding in you. And then to be, excommunicated or undergo church discipline. And it's like, for what? For a part of myself that won't go away. Like, I'm trying to understand, like, God in the midst of all this, and like these are his people, and how does that mean, as an extension of God's hand towards me? Like, I guess I'm just on the street. I guess I'll just uh figure it out. And that's why I'm like, it's so confusing. And then I'm like, people have made too many sacrifices. We've given too much to be treated that way. And that's why when people leave, I'm like, look, if because I personally don't go to church or anything, which be a big surprise. People like I went to high school with and early college, but it's when people say like, "Hey, I remember you, but I don't really do that anymore. I don't really go to church." For me, the step one is like, I understand, and even the people that who I know are pastors, and we were alumni and we were classmates. It's like, and I say like, "Hey, I don't do that." The best people that I know, they say, "Look, I get it." Especially like given everything that we both know, I understand. But for me, I still want to continue doing this. And I respect that because it wasn't necessarily that it was all bad or all good. And it was just how you chopped it up and why you would want to stay. For me personally, I couldn't, just from my own mental health. But it's such a difficult thing. And then when we were at Southeastern, I didn't even know. I had no idea. I mean, I'm so wrapped up in my own junk. And again, it's just like everyone has these kinds of stories, and we go on and we just do our best to forget,
Yeah.
which I think is a huge shame.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, I have respect for everyone's experience, whether or not they're still a part of a Christian community or not. I think everyone's experience is valid. And um I do want to say, like, getting out of the SBC was just a big relief. Um I feel like where I'm at now, I feel like I'm getting the best of both worlds. Like at Southeastern, like I said, it was never an option for me to come out and be gay. Like, I never thought I would do that. And honestly, it was like, yeah, there are Christians out there who like support same-sex attraction or support same-sex relationships and LGBT community, but like those are bad Christians. Like, legit, they're bad people. They're bad Christians. And that is the way that I thought about those types of Christians until I actually met a group of people and I was actually doing a Bible study here with a group of people, and then didn't realize it until like weeks in that like they're all supportive of same-sex relationships. And I was like, wait, what's happening here? Like,
Yeah.
y'all are Christians, we're studying the Bible, and like You what? Huh? And that threw me for a loop. And that's really what set me on this course of like being figuring out that like, oh no, like there's a different way to interpret scripture on this issue. And like um you can be a good Christian and like think differently than the SBC does about this and about other issues too, not just homosexuality. But um that was just a big realization that like not everybody out there is the SBC. And I'm glad that I survived that
Yeah.
time of my
Yeah.
life. And for anybody else who's in that right now and it's just like really hating it, or they're about to leave it, but they think they're done. I just want to encourage people to like not completely give up on like God or Christianity. Like it's not all the SBC. There are other groups out there that are different. And I don't know. I was just happy to like discover that. I mean, I didn't think it was possible,
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting where people go after our experiences and like where, like, is there a place for us spiritually?
Yeah.
So I didn't want to run into more problems, if I were to say like be Episcopalian or Anglican. I haven't found a trend yet of most people, they just stop going altogether. They're just burnt out.
Yeah.
Um, but it's nice to know that there is a place. Like, there are other
Yeah.
denominations, there are other expressions.
And it's funny because like, yes, I felt like I was betrayed and I went through trauma and like I was hurt by a lot of the things that Southeastern taught and my church taught me. And, I feel hurt by that. But at the same time, like I love church. Like I, I like singing hymns. I like, taking communion. Like I like that stuff. Just I don't know, the rituals, like that kind of like I like it, so it's hard. It was hard for me coming out and being like, am I ever going to be able to have both of those things? And to be connected with this group of people that like, you know, think that it's possible to have both. I was like, oh, it was a huge relief and like took a ton of anxiety and a ton of stress off of me to be like,
Mm.
I can be who I am. I can be free. And I can be a Christian. And, it was just, I don't know. I feel like I've lived like 10 different lives because like I look back on my childhood and I'm like, who the hell was that? And how did I get through that? And I look back on like high school and I look back at Southeastern and I'm like, I don't even feel like the same person anymore. That's kind of how I feel talking about this was like that. Who was that? And I'm not even the same person anymore. But anyway, yeah, it's been really good to talk through some of this because I've needed to talk through it. And I've wanted to go to therapy, but I haven't wanted to pay for it. So this is like kind of like therapy for me. So um, thanks for having me on and talking to me and let me kind of just get it out. I feel like I could keep talking forever, but I do have to go to work
Yeah,
here
yeah.
shortly.
No, for sure. No, thank you, thank you, thank you for being on here, telling us your story, especially through Southeastern and where you are at. But people want to know, where can they find you? Say they listen to this. Can they find you on Instagram somewhere?
Yeah, I have an Instagram. It's at Sam, the letter B, and Shepherd, Shepherd. So at Sam B Shepherd is my Instagram. And it's honestly, it's all gymnastic stuff. But you can DM me on there and connect with me on Instagram if you want to. And then I have Facebook too. So if you want to look me up on there, Samuel Shepherd, you can do that.
All right, dude.
So yeah.
All right, dude. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being on Second Leap.
Yeah.